Okay, all set for the day, 14th October, and lovely day today, Thursday. It's a weekend in Saudi Arabia, and welcome everyone to Saudi Arabia Microsoft Excel and Power Platform, one place in finance solution where we come together, connect with each other, share and learn. And in today's meetup, we have a special guest, and I'm just going to talk about him quickly. But before that, I would just like to introduce myself. If you haven't known me, then I'm Faraz Shaikh. I'm a founder of excelexciting.com, a Microsoft certified trainer, innovative educator, uh, Microsoft Office master, and YouTuber and a blogger. And I do run meetups of Saudi Arabia, and my mission is to help the community and provide them easier solutions with all my friends around here. And my passion is to share and gain knowledge. And you can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter /Excel Exciting, and you can find me over there. So let me introduce our guest today, Bob Umlas. Bob is an MVP from last 25 years. He's a trainer, consultant, and author. And he has today some amazing tips and tricks on Excel. And trust me, those tricks, you must have not seen it. And even the experienced users, when they're using it, when they see these tricks. And Bob has been using Excel since Mac, okay, 0.99 version. So I'm really interested. And before the session was started, I was just discussing with Bob, what was the experience in Mac. And I would love to hear from Bob again, that how many rows and how many columns were there, Bob? That time you please tell the people.
Yeah, I think the
And
very first version was 512 rows and 64 columns.
oh,
That was it.
512 rows, just 512 rows. And today we have more than 1 million rows. So, my God, that was insane. And Bob is an author of various books, but he has this book called This Isn't Excel, It's Magic. And that's true. And today Bob is going to show us something that this isn't Excel, it's magic. He's going to show us some really magical stuff. And I'll be dropping in the some of the links where you can go and grab a book for the Bob, and you can purchase them. And I'll be shortly dropping it on the YouTube description also, and as well as on the chat. So, and just some of our past meetups. Oh, these were the past meetups. That was too quick. So this was our past meetups where we have some great speakers. And if you have missed the event, then no worries, my friends. Then you can just scan the QR code, or you can just visit to my YouTube channel, and then you can find it in the playlist as Excel Meetup Saudi Arabia. You can find all these videos over there. So if you have missed out, then you can feel free to go and check them. And we have an upcoming event from Claudia. Claudia, she will be showing us what's up with dynamic arrays in Excel. And I was discussing with Claudia, so she mentioned that she'll be coming up with some dynamic arrays where she'll be showing us some dashboard tricks and how to manage the arrays with charts. And so it would be really interesting to see from Claudia, in her coming days. And then we have somebody who is willing to share his knowledge to this community. Then your superhero skills, and if you want to show us that this isn't Excel, this is magic, then you are most welcome to come and speak and present on Microsoft Excel Saudi Arabia Power Platform Meetup. And we would be really looking forward to see you. And you can write me down on the emails, or you can connect me with Twitter or Facebook anywhere. And just to take a quick note, just to enjoy and have the best experience, just try to keep your mic mute. And in case if you're having any difficulty, you can just exit and rejoin. And if you have any questions, then I would request everybody to please put it in the chat box, and then I'll take it up with Bob. Or you can just mention Q before your question, so it's become easy. And to find it out and to present it to Bob. And no worries, if you wanted to speak something, you can please feel free to speak out. And we'll definitely have some time for question after we go, after the end of the session. We can have a discussion and we can have a chat. So thank you, Bob, for coming. And I'll hand it over the stage to Bob now.
Okay.
And it's very pleasure to have Bob, because I've been following Bob from quite long time, and it's my pleasure to welcome you, Bob. Thank you so much for coming in Meetup Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen.
Sure, Bob.
You see it? You see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, like Faraz said, I am Bob Umlas, and my favorite book, this isn't Excel, it's Magic. I have quite a few books though. Many of the tips that you'll be seeing here are from this book. And you could also find my other books just by typing my last name into Amazon.com. I don't know if that works from Saudi Arabia, but just in case. And also, this is my license plate on my car, which I am enjoying. No one has ever beeped at me and asked me for some work. But anyway, what I'm going to be showing you on this particular tab is something, the name of the tab is 39%, and 39% has a very special meaning. So if I look at the range called welcome, welcome is that range of cells. I'm going to reduce this to, let's say, 50%. All right, 57, that'll go. Welcome is that range name. Then 2 is a range name, and Excel is a range name, and tips and tricks is a range name. The thing that's special about the 39% is when you zoom, if you hit 39% or less, range names that are more than 1 cell long show up in the workbook. These are the range names. This is the range name called welcome, etc. So if you ever inherit a workbook from someone else, it might be a good idea to take a look at what their range names are, because maybe they overlap or maybe something's clearly missing. But this is cool. So if I just move it back to 40%, they disappear. Okay, that was that one. Next, page setup. This contains page setup for the page setup demo. So if I were to look at this in print preview, which I have here, it's landscape. It has a center header. Row and columns are being shown, the letters. The date and time is on the right side, and that's, let's say, the setting that I want. If I go to another sheet, which has some data in it, and I print preview this, you see there's nothing special. It's portrait. And the question is, how would I copy a page setup? I want to copy this page setup to another sheet, or maybe many sheets. What I do is I put the sheets in group mode, so I can control click on this tab, or shift click if they're next to each other, or I could shift click on all these tabs. I'm just going to do ungroup the sheets and just do that. It puts the word group up in the name of the file at the top, which means that anything I do on one sheet is being done on all the sheets in the group, including making a selection. So I arbitrarily selected that. If I look at the next tab, that's the same selection. If I go here and go back to the first tab, same selection. So how do I copy page setup? I go to the page layout tab in the ribbon. I click on the dialog launcher for page setup and just click OK. I'm done. I'm going to ungroup the sheets. I will look at this tab and print preview. It is row and column headings, landscape, center header, date and time. This time I'm in New York. Actually, I'm in Pennsylvania, but it's the same time zone. This other stuff here is about quick formatting. So I have the number 3 in all these cells. I'll keep them selected. And if I do Control Shift and the numbers 1 through 6, this is what happens. Control Shift 1 puts 2 decimal places in it. Control Shift 2 gives a time. Control Shift 3 gives a date in a format I never use. Control Shift 4 has a dollar currency. 5 is percent. 6 is raised to the power, and Control-Shift tilde, which is on my keyboard left of the number 1, makes the format be just general format. Control-Shift-7 puts a little border around it. If I have multiple selection, Control-Shift-7 puts borders around it. Control-Shift- removes the border. Control-Shift-, I put holes in it. If I do all that, Control-Shift-, the borders are gone. It's always a thin border. You can't get thick border that way. Okay. This one, nothing special about this sheet, except it has the word Bob in it. And it has also Bob later 1. And all it has is this. We will get back to this later. That's why it says later. AutoSum. Supposing on this task, what you wanted to do is put the sums of the rows in here, and then the sums of the columns this way. Most likely, what many of you would do, if not all of you, you'd click in here. I would do Alt equals. If I do it twice quickly, well, the first time I do it, it just suggests the formula. Alt equals the second time, it'll enter the formula. So if I know that that's what I want, if I start off by Alt and I double click the equal, it puts it in. Then I can double click this. So far, so good. Click over here, Alt equals, puts that in, and I drag to the right, and the task is done. No big deal, not difficult, but there's an easier way. If I select all the data plus an extra row and an extra column, 1 Alt equals does the whole job. Next, totals. Here I have a bunch of numbers, and every so often I have a subtotal. It's not using the subtotal command, it's just the sum function. So it goes on and on. This is the sum of that group of cells, and this is the sum of that group of cells, and so on. And it keeps on going down pretty far. How do I get the grand total? What I've seen people do is this first one. I don't know if you can see it well. I'll put in formula text of this cell. I have 2 parentheses, I didn't mean that. And then I can make this bigger. And in order to do that, one might enter, I'll do it here, equals this, and then I scroll, and this, oh, I'm sorry, this, and a plus sign. Scroll, and this, and a plus sign. Scroll, etc. That certainly leads to very likely errors, because you might miss one. The one below that says this uses the SUMIF. The SUMIF function takes a range. I'm summing if A1 to A133, that's the column to the left, which currently looks kind of blank. If that equals subtotal, then add up the corresponding values in B1 to B133. So this adds them all up. And that's basically the subtotal. Now, there's a possibility for a mistake here. If I misspelled subtotal, it's not going to pick it up right. The next version is using SumProduct. SumProduct takes a list of arrays. I just click on here. It's an array 1, array 2, array 3. And it multiplies them together and then adds up the results. One of the things about SumProduct is that the parameters in the arrays must be numeric. So if I just did this, then, and I calculate that, you'll see I just get a bunch of trues and falses. That's not numeric. The N function changes true to 1 and false to 0. So now it's numeric. So wherever there's the word subtotal, I see a 1 here. And this, of course, is the range of values. So it multiplies these two. It'd be 0 times 22 plus 0 times 20, etc. And then adds them all up. And of course, I get the same answer, 6,000. This next one is the same as this first one, except it's putting it in a sum function. What makes it cool to do it this way, which is much less error prone, is that Excel can figure it out. If I click in this cell and do Alt equals, it puts that formula in. It found all the embedded formulas. However, the best one is equals the sum of B1 to B133 divided by 2. What? That's too easy. I mean, I've actually seen in someone else's work a formula like this that spanned 2 lines, 2 rows in the formula bar. So how does this work? Well, these numbers add up to 456. That's what this says. So I have 456 through here, and then another 456. These numbers add up to 720. That's what this says. So I have 720 and another 720. In other words, I have all the numbers in there twice. So just add them up, divide by 2. Okay. Here, supposing I want to get the total of these values. I can click in here, and I can click on the sum tool. There's a drop-down arrow, and I can use sum. I could leave it alone, that's fine. And that's right. And for average, I can use the drop-down arrow and click average. But look, it includes the total. So it's going to be the wrong average. That's unfortunate. So I'd have to adjust that, enter it, and then change that to an F. And then for max, again, I can use the drop-down, do max, and it includes the cell to the left. It's very unfortunate. But here's what you can do instead. So just like we did before, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to select these cells and do the auto sum like we did before. Just click auto sum and it puts the result in. Now I'm going to select these cells again and I'll do average. And look, it put it in the right place. It reselected this, but less editing. Reselect these and I go and do max and it puts it in the right place. Then, of course, I can select these and fill it down. I see some things in chat. Oh, okay. No questions yet. Cool. There's a can you do it again, but now I don't know where that came from. What am I doing again? So if there's a question, please enter it again, put in a question, and make it a little bit more clear what you want me to do. And yes, I will do things again. A couple of miscellaneous things here. Did you know you could type an R1C1 notation in the name box? If I type in row 3, column 7, and hit enter, that's row 3, column 7. Did you ever want to know where row 1000 is? Column 1000? We do row 1, column 1000. Oh, it's ALL. Didn't know that. So if you're ever looking at VBA code, and in VBA it refers to the column as a large number, and you want to know what column is that really, you can just do that. Did you know you can type a formula in the name box? Like, not with the equal sign. If I do offset of A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before I hit enter, the offset function, the first parameter is a reference cell. So in this case, it's A1. How many rows down? That's 2 rows down. From A1 should be A3. How many columns over? So 3 columns over from A3 is D3. And then number of rows and number of columns. So from D3, a shape of 4 by 5, and there it is. Now, I'm going to insert. Over here, this says the sum of A1 colon above. I'll explain that in a moment. And this says sum of H1 to H4. If I insert here, Control plus inserts, this function says sum of A1 to above. This one says H1 to H4. So if I were to type a number in here, of course it works because this says above. And we'll explain above in a moment. If I type a 5 in here, this refers to H1 to H4. But look, it changes it to H1 to H5, which is pretty cool. That happens if there's a certain number. I think if there's only 2 rows of this, that would not happen. But let me explain how you use above. So I'm going to go to the name manager and look at above. Above equals exclamation F5. Well, that's cool. I don't have a sheet name. If you start off a reference with an exclamation point mark, it's a reference to every, it works on every sheet. So if I were to define it as F5, normally it would be miscellaneous exclamation F5, but this F5 works in every sheet in here. Since I was in F6, when I defined it, this says it's a relative reference to the cell above. If I go back and click over here and do name manager, above now says C19 because I'm in C20. So you can specify relative referencing inside the name box, which is pretty cool. One thing I almost always do is when I get a new workbook, I click in cell A1 of the first sheet and I define a name called, I usually use Z, arbitrary, and it's A1 to Z100. So exclamation A1 to Z100. So I can use this range called Z on every sheet. What that does is if I'm over here and I go to Z, that brings it, pulls it up to the top left. There it is. So if I was here, let's just make these red so we see what we're doing here. So if I was here and I go to Z, that brings it to the top left. So you don't have to scroll and try to make the thing right. All right. I think that's all on this sheet. Yes. Did you know that you can have a text box that has multiple columns? I kind of recently learned this. Just a text box. So let's see how I do that. I'm doing Control-1. No, let's do it. Format shape. There we go. I'm going to use this here. Text options. Nope, in here. Look, columns. Normally this just says 1. If I click OK, that's the text box we normally would get. But in columns, and it would need wrap text in there too. There's 4 columns, and I can specify the spacing. That's cool. For those of you, for you latecomers, feel free to ask a question by putting it in chat, but start it off with Q:, and my co-host Faraz will then ask the question. So I don't have to keep visiting chat, although I am curious. Okay. How to. So here's the task. You have this data. And when you want to remove everything before the colon, so this just says do this, and this just says do that. Actually, you want everything before the colon and the space. You want to get rid of the space after the colon. So I have 4 ways to do it. One is formula-based. Let's start with the formula. The formula would be, I have to find out where is the colon. Find colon space in A3. That tells me where the colon space is. But I'm going to always add 2 to that to get to the beginning of it. And that gives me an 8. That's the letter D. If I know that, I can say the mid of A3 for that 8, and that's say 255. Oops, close. And fill it down. And task is done. Except I have to then copy and paste special values onto here. I can do a copy paste special values. The way I like to do it is I right mouse click on the border, like this, like a cut and paste. But with the right mouse, when I let go, I can copy here as values only. And then I don't need this anymore anyway. So I just clear that out. So I'm going to undo all that. Text to columns is another way. Let me just move this whole, let's move this down here because text to columns will get in the way. No, let's move it a little bit. Okay, so I select this and I do data and I do text to columns. It's delimited. Next, it's delimited by a colon. I can't put 2 characters in here. I'd like colon space, but I can't. When I just click finish, the answer is pretty much there, except I have a leading space. So the next step would kind of be another formula equal trim of this. And then copy paste special values onto the original. Undo, undo, undo. Okay. Flash fill. I'll just type to do this. That's my example. And if you're not familiar with flash fill, it's in 2 places. It should be right here on the data tab. It's also Control E, or on the home tab, fill, flash fill. What flash fill does, I'll read the text in here, automatically fills in values, enter a couple of examples you want as output, keep the active cell in the column you want filled in, and I just do it. Done. It figured it out. Flash fill is kind of amazing. But my favorite is replace. What am I going to replace? See, the thing with that flash fill, I still have to copy and paste special, copy or move it over to, let me undo this again. No, let's do this one more time, Control E, and then do this and just move it here and I'd replace it. I'm off by 1 row, but you get the idea. Okay. The other one, I'm going to replace. Control H is replace. What am I replacing? I'm replacing wildcard, that's anything before the colon and a space with nothing. Replace all, we're done. People seem to find that one surprising, but cool. Okay. Arrange all, live demo. So I have, let me just close some of these other extraneous things. And I'm going to just minimize this one. I'm going to add a couple of workbooks. And if I do arrange all, so I do view, arrange all, and tiled, I get all the windows that were open, different workbooks. This is the live demo. The one that I minimized is still available, but it's not part of the arrange all. You're almost all certain that the top left version, top left workbook, is the one that was active when you did the arrange all. But what's the order of the others? Well, let's show that. Let's have live demo be at the top left. And I'm going to put in, let's say, have this one be number 2, have this one be number 3, and have this one be number 4. So in order to do that, I have to click in descending order or backwards order of how I want it to be. So I want this one to be last, then this, then this, then this, just by clicking. Now I do arrange all. Live demo 2, 3, 4. Let's just do a few more of these. So I have some more. Let's just do view, arrange all. So let's make this one 5, and this one 6. Is that it? Yep. Okay, so I want this one to be first. So I can backwards order 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, live demo, arrange all. And there it is. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, you don't see those. That's right, because I didn't share that. I'm so sorry. Let me re-demo that by doing it as new sheets.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, I forgot about that. I'm sorry. I'm closing some other workbooks here. Okay, so let me insert some sheets. One, I'll do that. A bunch of tabs and insert worksheet. Okay, so I have sheet let's see, I want to, okay. So now I'm going to do new windows. Window, view, I don't need the new one, window, view, new window, view, new window, view, new window. Actually, I don't need these multiple sheets. Get rid of them. Sorry. Okay, so
I think
if
Bob,
I do,
I think Bob still, you have added new sheets, right?
yes,
Window?
hold on. Tell me if you see this. Do you see that a bunch of sheets?
No, now we see one big sheet, which is big one. I think you need to share your screen one, or your screen, entire screen, not
All
just.
right, okay, screen, share. How's that?
Yeah, that looks perfect. That looks beautiful.
Okay, all right, so let me go back. I'm gonna just change a couple of tabs here and here and here, miscellaneous, and here. All right, now you see 5 different sheets, yes? So what I was
Yes.
talking about is the order of these sheets. So I want live demo to be top left where it is. I want this to be number 2. I'll put a 2 in here just as a reference. I'll put a 3 in here and maybe make that a 4 and make that a 5. Okay, if that's the order I want to see them in, I just click them in reverse order. So I'm clicking on the 5, and the tab with the 4 and the 3 and the 2 and the that. And now when I arrange all, there's the 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5. So that's how you can figure out the order of your arrange all. Enough time spent on that one. Let me move on. All characters in the font. So what I have in every cell, starting with row 2, is the function called char of row, or the character of the row I'm in, or the character of 2. Character of 2 is a blank. The character of 33 is an exclamation mark. Now I did this long before dynamic arrays. I could have done the char of the sequence and get them all the same, but we're not going to go into that now. Once you see, I did it per font. So webdings and wingdings will look different. But aside from webdings and wingdings, if you see a character that you have wanted to be able to type but can't type it easily, like the 128, the Char of Row gives me a pound sterling. This is going to be a technique where you can actually type directly a pound sterling. What I do is assuming you have a numeric keypad, because you have to use a numeric keypad part, or you might have the numeric keypad buried in some other keys. You type the row number of this character you want with a leading 0. So I'm going to just click here arbitrarily. 128 gives me a euro. I'm holding down the Alt key, which you must do also. 0128. When I let go of the Alt key, there's the symbol. If I wanted a section mark, that's 167. Alt 0167, let go, there's a section mark. Degrees I use a lot, 176, I've managed it. Now if it's 90 degrees, 90 Alt 0176, let go, there's a degree symbol. So you can memorize your favorite or print this out and hang it near your computer so you can type these weird characters. In addition, Alt 7 on the numeric keypad gives you a bullet. Here's Alt 7, I got a bullet. Alt 3456 gives you playing cards, and I made them red after I did that. Alt 3 of heart, but then I selected it and made it red and so on. There's also music, Alt 1.4, Alt 1.3. And one that I really like is this check mark, but it's not, if I click on it, notice it checked it, turned it off. It's a strange symbol though, that's in there. O, and it has to be a wingdings. And I have a macro running in the background, so it's kind of cheating. But if you ever worked with workbooks that have lots of check marks on them, if you ever have to hide rows or columns, the check marks seem to overlap and you can't get rid of them. This way, it's just a character. And if I have to hide a row or a column, it's very simple. So Control 9 will hide the row. Control Shift 9 will unhide it. The code I have in there is pretty simple. So it's a worksheet selection change. If I just click on it, if the target's font is wingdings, then if it's this character, then I make it that. Otherwise, if it's that character, I make it this. So it's a toggle. Here's another for later, has Bob in it. And we'll get back to this, I promise. It'll be kind of cool. Distribute. This number, this is a formula, and let's make it equals formula text of this. And make it a little bigger. This number is the difference between these values divided by the difference in the rows. Meaning if I were to take 30.7851, I'm going to put it over here, 123, and then equals this plus this, and I'm going to fix that. It's absolute. When I fill this down, I get the 554. So this gives me the amount of difference I have to do to make an even distribution. If this were up here, the new number is 35.91. If this were here, the number is 107. So each of these, if I add 107, I get that. Okay, undo all that. I don't need a formula. I can just select these. And while that's selected, I go to fill series, and Excel figured out that number for me. Just click OK. Undo. Let's make this, let's put it over here and make it the number 1,000. Select the top and bottom, fill series. Number is 87.7, same thing. Okay. Quick peek at chat, super duper cool. All right, thank you. That's the kind of thing I like to hear. Okay, files, etc. This one's a little mind-blowing. I don't know if any of you know the name Leila Garani. She has 1 million followers. She's an Excel MVP. And I sent her this tip when I discovered it. And I discovered it literally in a dream. I dreamt this. I have a named range called FL, which we'll look at the definition in a moment. FL gives me a list of all the files in this directory. So if I do open, hold on, if I do this, I have only 2 files in here. Let me get to a bigger one that has lots of Excel files in it. Okay, that's a lot bigger. So if I get rid of the leading apostrophe, boom, there's all the files. It's a dynamic array. What in the world is the definition of FL that does that? Well, let's take a look. Name manager, FL, transpose of files, open close parenthesis. Files is not a valid name. But I started with Excel in 1986, and the macros they had then was in an Excel 4 macro language. If I insert a macro sheet, in the macro sheet, that's legitimate. If I hover over this and expand on what that is, I get that same list. But you can't do it in a worksheet. But you can do it as a defined name. So all FL is equal transpose of files. If I didn't transpose it, it would go all the way across out this way. Now, this is all the files in here, including a doc file, a LNK file, whatever that is. So this one makes it only Excel files. By FLX, all the Excel files, XLM, Excel. Let's take a look at the definition of FLX. Transpose of files, you can't see it, but it's quote, asterisk, wildcard, .xl asterisk, close quote. Pretty much the same as that. Undo, 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 undo. Put the quote back. Tab names. This is a little bit more involved, but I have this, and it's also alphabetized. Here's files, etc., the one we're on. And later in this, if there's time, I'll show you how to convert this list to hyperlinks. So I can just click on that and go to that tab. Let's take a look at the definition of tab names. It's a lot more involved. I'm going to copy it and paste it. Copy, paste it so you can see it. There's a function called get.workbook1, and that only exists on a macro sheet or as a defined name, and it lists all the tab names. But let me show you that on a macro sheet so you see what it's really showing. Equal get workbook 1. And if I expand that, F9 that, each one of these has the name of the whole workbook, master TNT, and the tab name, master TNT.xlsm, etc. So that's what get workbook 1 does. So I'm taking the middle of that. I'm looking for that right bracket, which is the after the workbook name. I'm transposing that, and get workbook 1 gives me, well, I'm looking for the character after that, 255, and then sorting it. So it works. It's great. Again, this is available as on a YouTube, so you can replay it anytime you want and access it. Column E in here also shows what it is. It was hidden. Mirror. This I think is pretty cool. It's not very useful, but it's really cool. And the person who I tried to ask Microsoft what's going on, and anybody who could have explained it had left the company. So watch. This is a camera tool. That is, if I make a selection and I use the camera tool, which I put up here in the quick access toolbar, when I click that, then click away, I get a picture of it with the reference. If you don't have the camera tool, you can right mouse click in the quick access toolbar, customize it, scan down. See, camera is not here, but if I change that to all commands, then camera is in here somewhere. You can scroll down and find it. Come on, there it is, but I already have it. So it takes a picture of that. So this was a picture of A1 to F16. But what's cool is if I drag this into itself, you see like a mirror, when you show several mirrors, get this closer and closer. And this is like the infinite mirror effect, right? What's really weird though, is if I change that 4 to a 5, the mirrors seem to have a history. Only the first one got the 5. If you change it to a 6, 6, 5, 4, it's like, where is this 4 stored? And that's what Microsoft could not answer. Kind of cool. Totally useless, but kind of cool. Okay, moving along. Enter totals. This one's kind of interesting. Let me just move this out of the way. So I have 3 months, January, February, March, and then a quarter total. I have a sum here, and I want to add the sums all the way across. Obviously, I don't want the sums of the percent, but I just want the sums of these columns. if I drag this across, it's going to give me wrong information. If I click on this and drag to the right and select a blank cell, the pattern will be repeated. When the pattern's repeated, it's good for a while. It's month, then blank, month blank, month blank, month blank, but this is not a month. And this, I want this one to be included. So that doesn't work. What I could do is drag it out to here and then stop and start again. And I'm starting with a new pattern. The pattern now is number blank, number blank, number blank, number. So it's going to do that pattern, and that works to the very end. Change row height. Another peek at chat. Useless but cool. Path for files, that's a good question. That's in the current directory, whatever you're currently pointing at. Okay, so what I want to do is, if I were to preview this, it looks like just one, come on, one long list, like it looks like here. And let's say there's a lot more information this way, information, money and whatever. What I want to do is I want to make it higher whenever it changes. Not actually insert a row, but make it higher so that when it's printed, it at least looks like it's separated. Undo, undo. So you can do that with formulas. So I'm going to start here because that's the first row. Whoops, let's scroll up a bit. Start here. That's the first row that it might be a new department. And I'll just say if the row above is not equal to this row, if that cell, then I'm going to put in a 1, otherwise an X. Now, why 1 or X? Let me just first just enter that. And if I do a go to special, both formulas and constants have these 4 different sub breakdowns. So I did 1 or X, which means I can use number or text. So I can distinguish between 2 of them. I could have chosen true and NA. And I just want to get a separation so I can distinguish between them. So now when I double click this, I get a 1 whenever the department changes. So now I can do a go to special. And I go to the formulas that are numbers. I'm going to just deselect text. I don't have to deselect the others. They're not going to be any. I made this formula. Click on that. And now I can go to format row height. And let's say double it, 31. Okay. Then I can get rid of this. Don't need it anymore. And print preview looks fine. Now, granted, this is small enough they don't have to go through all that, but let's say it was several hundred rows. You wouldn't want to do it another way. Okay, double space. Here I have lots of stuff down to row 850. That's just lots of stuff. Whatever it is, supposing what I really wanted to do was double space it. I physically want a row in between each row. I don't want to just change the row. I mean, it looks wise, it would look like that, but I want a physical row between it. So I might click on that, Control plus will insert, click on that, Control plus, click on that, etc. With 800 rows, that'll take a long time. Matter of fact, with 850 rows, even if it's just you write a macro to do that after you've debugged it, it'll still take a reasonably long time. I've come up with a way that I can do this in under 7 seconds manually. So who needs a macro? In demoing it, I'm not going to do it in 7 seconds because it's not going to be very instructive. So first thing I'm going to do is number all these rows. So I can type in a 1. What most people do is they type in a 1 and a 2, right? Double click that and you get them numbered down to 850. But I don't want to do that because most people think that if I double click this, it's just going to be ones. So here's another tip in itself. If I make that selection, double click is fine. I'm now going to, as it is, I'm going to copy, Control down arrow, that brings me to here, paste. I now have two sets of those numbers. Go to the Data tab, click on A to Z, and I am done. It sorted these numbers. This one had all the blanks next to it. This two had this stuff. This two had the blanks, etc. I now just get rid of column E. Done. Okay. Here's another Bob. Well, did you ever have a workbook that you made changes to and you really want to get the original back? You realize that you have to close it in order to reopen it. So if I go here and I open this file, nothing happens. The proof is, let's make this yellow. I'm going to open this file. It does not open itself. It knows it's open. This did it. So it's a macro, but the macro is kind of cool. I'm going to show you the macro code. It's down here, reopen me. I have an on time event that says now, right away, run this reop or reopen. And then part of this macro is close this workbook without saving it. I didn't exit Excel, I just closed Excel. So this statement is sitting somewhere in memory because Excel still exists, it's live in memory. And it knows, oh, I now have to run this new macro called reop, but reop isn't here. I know where it is, I have to go open it. So in order to run this, it has to open the macro. Then I activate this workbook just in case something else is going on, and I reselect that sheet. So you can reopen a workbook with this technique. Okay, I'm going to define a bunch of names. Right now, I don't have that many names here, but I'm going to select all this and the column to the right. Okay, so I have 50 names in here. And I will do formula, create from selection, the left column. I now have all these names. I'm going to delete all these names in one statement. And again, VBA, Excel 4 comes to the rescue. Go to Visual Basic. Down in here, in the immediate window, I'm going to say execute Excel 4 macro. That's a legitimate VBA command. And it executes an Excel 4 macro like we've seen a little bit. And what I'm executing is sum of delete names. If I did that, it would delete all the names. I only want to delete these names. I'll just show you. It deleted all the names. Didn't delete table names, but so let me reopen this now. Okay, so those are all back. Let's do this and formulas, create from selection, left column. So these names are back. Go back to developer, Visual Basic. I don't want that. I want those that begin with NAME star. Oops. I need two quotes in here, double quote, because it's inside quotes. Come back here. It didn't do it. Delete all these names in one statement. Define. I made some mistake. I don't want to spend. Delete names. If this doesn't work, I'm not going to bother. I could always rename it. Oh well. I'll delete them all. Well, that's okay. I'm not going to save this. All right. Sorry. I should have tested that out further. It used to work, or I did something else. Okay. Remember those three worksheets that had the word Bob in it? Like here's another Bob, which just had these numbers and so on. So there's a function. This is with a text on it. a leading quote. I'm doing a sum of a wild card with Bob. This says sum, single quote, star Bob star, single quote, A1 to B2. If I get rid of this, what it's going to do is give me all the sum of all the worksheets that have the word Bob in it, and it'll actually expand them. Watch, boom. It now says sum of Bob later one, A1 to B2, the sum of for later Bob, A1 to B2, and another Bob, A1 to B2. That's pretty cool. So if you know, naming your worksheets appropriately, you can do these 3D formulas with an asterisk. Okay, a couple of miscellaneous things. Instead of typing 1,000,000, type 26. 26. If it's already formatted correctly, typing 1E6 will do that. Typing 1E7. So you're just not miscounting the number of zeros. 1E9. Okay. Format Painter. I'm sure you're familiar with the Format Painter, but did you know you could use a Format Painter on objects? So I'm going to click this, click on the Format Painter, which I have in the Quick Access toolbar, and click this. Boom. That's kind of cool. Now, you probably know that there are notes, comments are now called notes. But the old comment or the new note still looks kind of boring. If I do review and I give a new note, it looks like that. Boring. They all look like that. So let me undo that. But how about a note that looks like that? Or like this? So let's show you how you can convert your old note or comment, whatever, into something pretty fancy. So I'll put a new one in here. I'll do a new note. And I'll say, this is a cool comment and not boring. Well, so far it still is. I click on the border of the comment. If the cursor is blinking inside it, it's not going to work. Click on the border, no cursor. I then Control 1 to format it. In Colors and Lines tab, in color, there's fill effects. In fill effects, I can do all sorts of things, including picture a pattern. I can bring in a picture. Let's select a picture. Let's do a Bing image search of tiger. And I'll do that one. Insert. That's why I got that in there. But I could also have a gradient fill, 2 colors. Color 1, let's make it yellow, and color, let's make it, in the United States, we have Halloween, which is orange and black. So from orange to black, and we'll do it from the center to that one. Okay, okay, and there's that comment. Now, how about the shape? Well, I have to change the shape. So while I'm here, I will do notes, edit note. And I have a change shape tool in the quick access, not switch windows. Here it is. Change shape, which you can always add to your quick access toolbar. And I can pick in any shape I want that I have in here. Let's do that just for kicks. Boom. You get the idea. Okay. You probably know this, but it's good to know anyway. If I want this, and I use the fill handle, the Format Painter to do that, I can keep the Format Painter alive by double clicking it. So it's alive. And once I've made it alive by double clicking, I can click it again or hit the escape key to make it normal. We already talked about go to Z. The fill handle you can use to drag and delete. If I select these, if I drag this up with the Shift key, it removes them and drags the others up along with it. Shift, drag up. Without the shift key, it'll just fill up. I mean, it'll empty it, which is cool also. Registry, double find macro, edit. You can save information in the registry, so you can communicate between sessions of Excel or between different workbooks. So I'm going to do a message box on something called get setting. And I'm not going to spend much time on this. You can look up get setting. It has 4 parameters. If I do that, it says nothing yet. So I'm going to save something in this registry. These are the keys to that registry. I made it up. I'm saving very cool in here. Boom. And if I now do get registry, if I exited Excel, went to if I shut the machine down, shut it back, turn it back on, run this code, it says very cool because it's saved in the registry. And here I can delete that setting. I could have a main of A, or if I do save setting, I have the app name, the section name, the key name, and the setting. So if I just do delete the app name, it deletes all the ones under it. So now when I do this, it's going to go back to nothing yet. Okay, moving along. Merge. You'll notice that cells A1 to E1 are merged, but so is A1, all these merged. One row, 5 columns. How do I do that? I'll do it here. Do I do this and click merge and center? Do this, merge and center. I can't do that. That's gonna make one big box out of it. So how do I do one at a time? And this goes down to what, row 100? Yeah, 100. So what I did, let me undo these. I selected this and go down as far as I want to go down. There's a little drop down next to merge and center, and there's one that says merge across. That's exactly what it does. Quick peek at chat. Cool tips, thank you.
There's some cool comments from Bob also on the YouTube. People are just blown off with the tricks you're showing. I've been getting from Mayunk, who's a regular one coming for our sessions. He's saying that FileX is seriously, blow my mind.
Good. I like blowing people's mind.
Yeah.
How about this one? Where are the row numbers? I have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. What happened to the row numbers? Well, I'll show you on a new sheet and do it from scratch. So if I arbitrarily pick a cell and give it a huge font size, like 150, that's huge. Then if I click this and the cell below, and I drag the fill handle down far, I get alternating large, small, large, small. If I now select everything and I drag the row numbers back to a decent size, look at number 1, watch it, it's disappearing. Done. So they're not really gone. And if I just do these and double click, I see the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is exactly what was happening here. It's there, it's just big. All right, this one I like. Not that I don't like the others. Another peek here. Oh yeah, I don't recommend using merging anywhere, period. Merging is terrible, messes things up. But did you ever, for those of you who write macros, you probably include a message at the bottom right next to where it says ready, but it's not very visible. Like if I go here and I do application dot status bar equals here is my message. Now you see at the bottom, here is my message. So if you're giving a message to a user, it's not very obvious that, like let's say you want to say, please wait while the macro is running. By the way, here's my personal .xls. One of the things I have in here is clear the status bar. Okay, it's back. So I wrote this, that this would, you wouldn't have a wait button, but whatever the logic is or the code behind there is, would simulate you're running a long macro. And this one simulates this macro being 5 seconds and it restores it. But watch, you can't miss the message. Please wait. And after 5 seconds, it's restored. That's kind of cool, right? You do whatever it's doing, then you put this up, please wait, or any other message you want. And when the macro's over, you do that. Let's see what that does. Assign macro. I have a ribbon file, wait.xlam. So if you've written ribbon code, which I'm not going to get into at all, you can just open it up. This says in 5 seconds, there's 86,400 seconds in a day. So in 5 seconds, now plus 5 seconds, or now plus 5 seconds, run this wait no longer, in which all I do is close that ribbon file. Okay. A few mailing labels. I have data that looks like this, and I need to sort them. Think about it for a second. How would you sort these? I mean, I have to sort them by blocks. And of course, if there's only these 4, I can manually move them around. But let's say there's 1,000 of them. And I want to sort them by last name. Luckily, I already have last name. Here's one way I've done it. I'm going to insert a row, Control+, and then I'm putting a formula in here that says if the cell to the left and above is blank, that way I know I'm in a new group. So for a new group, I want to pick up the cell to the left. Otherwise, I want to pick up the cell above. And the cell above contains nothing. Let's just use the format painter in here. But when I fill this down, and I'm purposely going in one extra row, it does exactly what I'm looking for. So this one we know about. This one says if the cell above, that's A2, is blank, choose A3, but it's not blank, so it chooses the cell above. So these keep choosing John Jones until the cell to the left and above is blank. Then it picks up the guy to the left. So now that I have this, I can just sort. Now that these are sorted, I can get rid of this column, Control-, and this row, Control-, and they're sorted by last name. Here's another mailing labels things. I want to change these to name 1, address 1, city, comma, state, zip 1, which is all in column C. So how do I do that? Let's do it over here. Let's say I tried it this way. Equals A1, then equals B1, then equals C1, and the blank. So I'm going to include that blank. And I use this, and I get name 5, 9, 13. What happened to the others? What happened to name 2? Well, clearly that one doesn't work, because if I, from A1, when I drag it down, this is going to become A5, then A9. Just that's the nature of the beast. So that technique doesn't work. So instead of A1, I'm going to do XA1, which makes no sense. I'm going to do XB1, XC1. Do this, include the blank, and let's see, this goes down to row 30. I'm using 4 rows per. 4 times 30 is 120. So I'm going to drag this down to row 120. Scrolls too fast. And I get that, but so what? Well, I'm going to do a replace, Control-H, replace X with equals. Boom. Cool, yes. I have to visit the chat. How did I do that? What I just did? Well, thank you so much. All right, let's take a look at another mailing labels. Number 3. Here I have it in that format, and I want to bring it back to this format. So this one says A1, A2, A3, A5, A6, A7, but I'm going to come across the same issue. Garbage. So again, I want XA1, XB1, XC1, and I have to give it the pattern. So I'm going to do XA5, XB5, XC5. I may not have gone down far enough, but you got the idea. Again, change X to equal. And no, I made a mistake. What did I do? Oh, no, that was wrong. Hold on. Yeah, I clearly messed up. Start all over. XA1, XA2, XA3, XA5, there we go, XA6, XA7. That's better. Sorry. And replace. Boom. Done. Now, for those of you who are a little familiar with dynamic arrays, I can do this with a sequence formula. The index of A, sequence of 160 divided by 4. Why 160 divided by 4? Because I know there's 160 rows here. Goes down to 160. Divided by 4, because there's only going to be 16 of them or whatever it is. I take off the leading quote, and it's all done. Oh, the comma 4 at the end. So sequence 160 divided by 4 is 40. This gives me 40 rows, which is all there are. This 4 says 4 columns. So I get the blank at the end. I probably could have done this with 3 columns. No, I guess 4 columns. Okay, fill right and fill down. So here's the information that I want to see left to right, like this. But I'm going to clear it out. I want to put something in here so that when I fill it to the right, I get this. And I don't want to use a offset and transpose and all that. I want to use direct reference. So if I do the old XA1 and just start with XA1 and go out to here, XA8, and then change X to equals. Done. Right? That was pretty easy. Sorry. But supposing I started with this, I'm going to put values. By the way, I don't know if you saw that. I right mouse click, drag the border away and back on top of itself. That gives me this. That's the way I like to do copy paste special values. Even though I have a copy and I have this paste special values, I keep forgetting that I could do that as well. All right, supposing I started with that and I want to make it go down. I want this to be effectively XA1, and I want XB1, but I can't drag this down. I don't want XA2. I want C, D, E, F, and so on. Now, granted, this is easy enough to not have to resort to this, but this is a cool technique, I think. So I'm going to change this notation. I'll go to File Options. And on the formulas, I'm going to change it to R1C1 reference style because I can't fill this down. I don't know what that is. Okay. I can't fill it down and have it go from A to B to C, but I can do R1C1. When I fill this down, I get just what I'm looking for. Change R to equals R. Did that. Now I go back to options and change it back. A1, B1, C1, D1, and so on. Okay, a little bit of, you know what, I'm going to skip this one. This one is a little mind-blowing. It's funny, I saw this, I don't know if you know the name Bill Jelen. He's an Excel MVP. He put up a video about someone else named John Gervin who explained this, and Bill Jelen said, wow, this is fantastic. And I thought it was pretty fantastic too. And then I went to one of my books called Excel Outside the Box to see what I could do to come up with a new one like this. And I found this was my tip in the first place. So John Gervin did say he didn't remember who he got it from, but it's mine. So I feel free to demo it. So I have this data that's just coming from here. So this is the supporting data for all that. This is a subtotal of 109, and it's picking up column C. All of column C in 109 is column C, and you can see it says at the bottom 592763, which is that number here. It also happens to be the sum of these. Actually, let's look at that one. That's the sum of these values. Okay. The problem was, and this is the formula in here, the problem was, how do I get it subdivided? If I tried this, this is not what it says here. Let me refresh that. That's interesting. Okay. If I tried this formula, which is in here, but it's shown here, if I try the sum product, if I use the subtotal 109 with supporting data, not all of column C, but C2 to C123, C2 to C123, that's where it ends. And C1, of course, says amount. So if I'm using that data, and remember from the end, I have to convert trues and falses to yeses, to ones and zeros. I want where A2 to A123 is equal to A5 in this case. But it gives me a value error. And the reason I get a value error is because this subtotal in itself gives me one value. And this gives me 122 values. And they have to match. So I came up with this wonderful formula. I'll put it over here. Now that's in the way. I'll show you another trick just to get objects out of the way for a moment. Control 6. It's a toggle to show objects, hide objects. So for the time being, I'm just going to hide it. Not F6, 6. So this is the same subproduct formula, but instead of 109 for the supporting data C2 to C123, I'm doing the offset of the supporting data C1. Sequence of 122 gives me 122 values. Offset of C1 from 1 to 122 is C2 to C123. Now they happen to have the same number of values. Let me open this up. So the subtotal of this offset part, actually, let's start with the sequence part. The sequence part gives me numbers 1 through 122, Control Z. The offset of C1 for all that gives me all those numbers in column C. And this is the stuff in column A. Does it match that? Since they match, it multiplies these together. Come on, close it up. So that formula produces the results, but it's cool because it's also based on a filter. Sorry, a slicer. When I slice this, it also hides all these. Since that's hidden, the subtotal formula, 109, is the one that shows don't add up hidden values. Could have done some otherwise, but the subtotal enables me to do it that way. Powerful formula. If I hold two of them down, and Atlanta and Miami, I go here, all I see is Atlanta and Miami. Okay, moving on. This was just to show that Control 6, actually. I already have it. The name of this tab is Control 6, hide and show objects. That's all there was to that one. Fill backwards. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party. What if I wanted party thereof, etc.? I can use this formula, and it's backwards. How is it backwards? This, let's do formula text of D1. Make it bigger. The index of all of G, for how many rows are there between G1 and G16? Well, there's 16 rows. The index of all of G for 16 is that. But notice that G16 is an absolute reference to row 16. So this formula has G2 to G16 because that one did fill down. The number of rows in G2 to G16 is 15. Therefore, the index of G for 15 is the 15th one. And it's just a cool way to get things reversed. So this one at the end, number of rows in G16 to G16 is 1. Index of G1 is this guy. Okay, what's this? It's a sea creature. What is it? Get ready to groan. It's calamari. Get it? Calamari. I can hear you groaning from here. Yeah, I'm avoiding. There was a question about Power Query. This is all tips and tricks in Excel, not going to Power Query. Nothing wrong with Power Query, but okay. I'm going to move on a few more. Space operator. I've named all these. So this is called things. I have north, west, south, east, etc. And this is west gizmos. West is this, gizmos is that. The space operator is the intersection. So this intersects at 16. If I wanted to do what is it this way, the indirect of A12 is objects, the indirect of objects is this. Space, indirect of A13 is east, 8. So there's objects 8 there. If I did south, and spell it right, picks up the 85, which is here. And in case you're not familiar with indirect, suppose in here I just say J12. It's all plain old text. But in J12, I have hello. Here, if I do the indirect of H5, it says treat the contents of H5 as a reference. So that says J12, which is hello. Moving on, filling holes. Supposing I wanted to sort this. Get this out of my way. I wanted to sort this by state and then region within state. Of course, if I sort this now, data sort by state, then by region, I get a big mess. So I need to fill this. I need to fill this down with PA, fill that down with WA, and so on. Fill them down, fill in the blanks. Now, this is not that big. It's not that terrible. I could do it manually. It only goes down to row 99. Let's pretend it goes much further than row 99. What I would do is I would do a go to special and select blanks. All the blanks are selected. It knows the worksheet doesn't extend beyond column D or row 99 because it's not the used area. But without changing anything, I type an equal sign, press the up arrow. That gives me a relative reference to the cell above. I do Control Enter and I'm ready for sorting. The Control Enter trick is if I have anything selected and I put something in there and I do Control Enter, everything that was selected gets filled with that. If I did equals the cell above plus 1, Control Enter, every one of these is the cell above plus 1. So Control Enter, sorry, equals, go to blanks, equals that, Control Enter, does it, and now I can sort by state, then by region, all done. If I needed it back in the original format, I can do a go to special formulas, hit the delete key. Only unique. I want this to only contain unique values. Maybe it's your employee number or something. If I put in a 7, it's fine. If I put in another 7, unique values only. Oh, okay. So it's data validation. And there's a formula that says equal count if all of column D for D2, which is the active cell, is a 1. That's what I'm allowing. I'm allowing the count if to be a 1. Otherwise, I get this. Hello, what happened here? Otherwise, I get unique values only. So let me explain that function in case you're not familiar with it, and I'll do it on here. Equals a count if this range, comma, this. Now I want A1 to A11 to stay fixed, so I'm going to fix that in place. Enter that. There's 3 1s is what that's saying. 1, 2, 3. Drag it all the way down. There's 5 2s. 3 is the only unique item in here. The rest have duplicates someplace. So I'm allowing the 1. That's the function. One other thing about data validation, supposing I'm applying it after the data is already entered. Data validation, settings, custom. I'm allowing equal to count if of this range, and I want to absolute value that there too, comma, this equals 1. Otherwise, it's not allowing me to click on error alert. Okay. So it allowed it, but I can't even re-enter a number. So how do I identify these? Well, I can go to data validation dropdown, circle invalid data. Hello, there it is. And it's circled everything except the 3. Now you can't do anything with these. You can't grab them. They won't print. If I do print preview, it's not there. Nothing I can do with them except fix the error. When I'm done, if I change this 4 to a 55, that circle went away. Or I can clear the validation circles. Just good to know. Okay, I have more I can do for us if you want me to keep going. I mean, it is we have a half hour left. I can just stop and then take questions, or I can keep going. Your call, or you guys can vote on it.
I think you can keep going, Bob.
Okay.
For me,
Good.
stuff going on right now.
All right.
I don't want to break it.
Skip blanks. Here I have the alphabet, but it's not together. If I copy this in, copy and paste in here, of course, I destroyed it. And I'm sure you've seen before in copy, when I go to paste special, there's an option for skip blanks. I did make a mistake. I did the copy. I want to go here and paste it. So I'm pasting skip blanks. It does exactly what it says. Skip the blanks in the range I'm copying from. So I did not paste these blanks in, so it left the original alone. Text to columns. You've probably seen this, but why not? I'm going to select these guys go data text to columns, and it is fixed width. I could even click in here if I want. I'll do next, but I'm going to do it this way. I can click in here to separate them myself, and then finish. That worked. No, it didn't work. It was terrible. I did something wrong. here's the way to do it. I click next, and I tell it that, I can click next again. I tell it that it's a date, and I can tell it that it's year, month, day. I'm in the US, so this is year, month, day. And now when I click finish, and I'll put it in B1, by the way, so it doesn't destroy the original. These are the right dates. Here, I can do it with a similar thing, text to columns. It's delimited. Next, the delimiter is a space. Finish. Here, I have, come on, that. Alt Enter throughout. I can do text to columns. Data, text to columns. It's delimited, but by what? It's not a tab, it's none of these. It is a new line, but I can't enter a new line in here. I do Control J. Control J is, for some reason, the symbol for new line. I click finish, there it is. Just an FYI, you can't rename a sheet history. So this has history with a blank at the end. If I take that blank off, history or reserved name. Good to know. More. Oops. Find backwards. So I have a whole bunch of accounting departments. It goes on and on and on, and eventually it goes down to the bowling department, which every good organization has. But how do I find the last accounting department? I do, not replace, find ACCTG, and I hold down the Shift key when I do find next. It finds it backwards. Now I know. Match a wildcard. This number is a percent that this is of the total for that department. In other words, equals this divided by this, formatted as a percent. But if I fill it down, of course, it's not going to be looking at this. Each one now looks at B3 over B21. So it's that number divided by that number. If I fixed the 20, so it stays in row 20, that would mess it up for filling all the way down, because this one would then also divide this number by the 20. So I came up with a formula that if I double click all the way down, these are the right numbers. Notice each one at itself is 100%. And the question is, how does it work? Well, let's do a formula text. B2 is obvious. I'm dividing that by the index of all of B. So all of this. I'm matching asterisk total. Asterisk total, anything that ends in total. I'm matching it against an offset of A2, which is here, for 1,000 rows by one column. So if I just look at that part of it, let's just take the match. Copy, equals paste. This 19 rows down to here goes down. Oh, that's the offset. The offset of that for 19 rows would be 21. 19 plus 2 is 21. So I have to subtract 1. So let's do a -1 to use for the offset. And that looks like it would work fine. And it would. But what's in here is not just -1, it's plus the row number that I'm in, -1. Because if I were to insert a bunch of rows here, actually, maybe I don't need, maybe I made it harder for myself. Plus the row number. Oh, matching that. Okay, that's right. The match gives me the right thing, but I have to take the index of column B. I need to know what row is it. It's not row 18 or row 17. I have to, let's get rid of, put this back up at the top. If I do plus the row number, 20 is the row number that it's in. This is now the actual row number. These are all 20s, and these are all 29s, and so on. That gives me the row number, and that's why this thing works. I'm going to skip that one. Conditional formatting, you probably know, but this is cool. If I wanted to get a sheet that looks something like that, the problem is later on I decide I really want to insert a row. So if I insert a row, let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I insert a row between 3 and 4, normally I would get a pattern that has 2 grays in a row. But this was done by conditional formatting. So let's take a look at the conditional formatting formula. This says the mod, which is the divisor when I divide the remainder, when I divide the row I'm in by 2. So when the remainder of the row I'm in divided by 2 is a 1, then make it gray. So every odd row is gray because of conditional formatting. So row 12 is not, 12 divided by 2 is 6, but it has a remainder of 0. So that doesn't meet the condition. So it's just easy to do that. Inserting rows or deleting rows doesn't affect anything. Text and repeat. If I have a date in here, today's date, I can't, I'm not allowed to, for some reason, increase the column width. It's fixed width, it has to fit on the paper. I can always use this, the text function, text of today, and I give it the same text functions that show up in here. I can put them all in here. The only ones that don't work are the ones that have like a color in it, red or any other color. You could also use a repeat function, R-E-P-T. I'm repeating / / 500 times. Gives me a nice pattern. Repeat an equal sign 500 times. Repeat left bracket dash right bracket 500 times. So you can make up your own interesting patterns. That's quite a few things here, don't I? All right, the last string. If I have a string like a path and I want to pick out just the last part of it, here's one thing you can do. Now that's a long formula to try to figure out, but let's look at the steps. What I need to first figure out is how many slashes are there. So let's do formula text in here. And make it bigger and drag it down. Okay, so the length of C4, it's how many characters are in C4, minus the length of the substitute of C4, taking all slashes out, convert slashes to nothings. So it says 5 because the length of C4 is, not minus, once again, length of C4 is 45. When I take all the slashes out, I'm going to get 40 because there's no slashes left. It tells me there are 5 slashes. So now I'm going to substitute the slash. I'm going to put on a char 222, which is this weird symbol here. I don't know if you can see it. Before where this slash is here, I've now substituted that odd character, the char 222. So I'm substituting that. The last parameter of substitute is the instance number. So the C7 is a 5. I'm only going to change this to the 5th slash. So now I could find it. Where is that char 222 in here? It's in the 34th position. To search. So now I can take the middle part of C4, starting at C9, this 34th position, that's the last character, that's that weird character, plus 1, that's the M of my file, for 255 kind of arbitrarily. Then this just puts all that, this puts all that in one formula. I'm guessing some of you are not familiar with the right click of the fill handle. If I have a date and I right click the fill handle and drag, when I let go, I get a bunch of options. I can copy, I can fill the series, it'll go up by days. Fill just formatting, so the rest of these cells will just be yellow. Fill without formatting, so I get the 327 filled without formatting. I can fill days, so it recognizes that it's a date, just weekdays. I'll just do weekdays. Notice that the April 1st and 2nd are missing. Again, this is US version. So it left off left off weekdays. No, left off weekends. The 8th and 9th are missing. Oops, I lost Excel. So hold on a second, guys. I'm getting Excel back. Be right with you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, Bob, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we close this, close that, and close that, and open, close that, and okay, we're here. So where were we? Right click the fill handle. Okay, so it recognizes dates. If I right click again and try months, the 27th of each month, and fill years, I can do a flash fill series, a bunch of options here. When it's not a date, these become grayed out. Just a bunch of interesting options. Pictures. I type the word dog, I got a picture of a dog. Type the word cat, I got a picture of a cat. This is not a macro. Baby. Something that's not there, it leaves it alone. Let's do cat. Let's show you how it works. These other pictures, let me scroll, let me make this smaller. I have those pictures off to here. And each one of them, like this says equals pick. Let's zoom it back up to normal. So each one of these is something called pick. And if I go to pick, it's the cells behind the picture. Now, why is pick the tiger? Let's go back to the beginning and type, well, not tiger, cat. Let's do baby. And now when I go to pick, not find, go to pick, it highlights baby. So each one of these is 30 rows by 15 columns. So let's look at some definitions. Pick is, and the name of this tab is pictures, so offset of T1, that's this guy, 30 times the match of A1 against A6 to A8 minus 1, 0, 30 by 15 is the shape of that picture, okay? So this is all about the starting thing, the offset. Let's go back to the beginning. When I do a match baby against this, I'll get a 3. Let's do it with dog. When I match dog against this, I get a 1. So let's look at pick again. So the match is going to be a 1. So this part of it is a 1. Minus 0, I'm sorry, minus 1, that makes this a 0. 30 times 0 is 0. So the offset of T1, 0, 0, this T1 in the shape of 30 by 15 is now what pick is. When I click on it, let's see, pick, click, and you don't see it highlighted, you often would. But when when I use cat would give me a match of 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 times 30 is 30. So 30, offset of T1 for 30 is T31. It starts there. And that's how that's done. Given the time, and I want to
yeah.
All right, obviously I have a lot more I can do, but
I think we need to have one
but
more
we're done. We need to stop.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop sharing. No, I don't have to stop sharing. I'll just take any questions. Keep going.
Yeah. I'm just checking the chat also. There's not much questions, but all mind-blowing wows and all appreciations are there in the chat.
I'll take that.
Lovely, Bob.
I mean, if there's no questions, I guess I could keep going.
Great. That was lovely, Bob. It was really lovely.
Great,
And
thank you.
I will just stop sharing screen.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Bob, for coming in, and it was really lovely. And I know that that sheet has a lot of amazing stuff, and we would be definitely, since the time constraint is there, we would definitely invite you again. And
Okay,
we would
I should
definitely
mark.
see what is
I
there
should.
in that sheets, lovely, amazing stuff.
You know what? If let me put my email address in the chat, and if anybody wants a copy of this workbook, I will send it to you. Just send me a request for it. How's that?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much for this, Bob. And my friends, it was really lovely to have Bob over here. And as you have seen, he is one of the #1 expert person in the world for Excel. 25 years of an MVP nomination, it's not an easy thing. And you can see from his presentation, it was really lovely to have Bob here and presenting. And in fact, Bob himself wrote me on the LinkedIn message that Faraz, I want to come and present. And it was like, wow, for me that Bob is going to come and present. Lovely. Thank you, Bob, for coming up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And Bob, usually I let my speaker, the presenter who is there, say some last words before we end the YouTube live session. Anything you would like to say to your YouTube friends, and anything, any quotes or anything, something about Excel also, no problem.
Okay. Well, I have 5 Excel books out there. Let me just share my screen for one more second here.
Sure.
Hold on. And then I'll point to, where is it here? Share. And if I go to the end, here's my books. I am available for training or consulting. I can be reached here. If you want to call me, fine. These are my books. This one is not yet a print book. It'll be print available in print in January of 2022. This is the one that most of these tricks come from, but there were a few on these as well. This one is really for beginners, not for you guys. I got started, in 1986 when Excel first came into being, and I just played with it all the time. I just stuck with it. I've been probably using Excel more than some of you are old. Before you were born, that's when I've been using Excel. I'm still aiming to try to get renominated as an Excel MVP. I will find out before the end of October. But for 2019 and 2020 and 2021, I have not been designated the MVP. Not because of what I know, but because of what I contribute. And I kind of slacked off. So I'm now doing this kind of thing. I'm doing actual training. I'm doing consulting. I'm doing tech editing for 5 books on Excel Microsoft 365 Excel version. Obviously, I enjoy doing it. I really like that I dreamt one of those tips. And I just, it's my hobby. Excel was my hobby before I started working purely with Excel. I was always a programmer, but Excel, starting in 1990, was a job that I had.
Lovely, Bob. Thank you so much. And we'll be just ending up the session, my friends. So see you in the next meetup session. Make sure that you go to the meetup site and register yourself for the next meetup, Claudia. And the link is also there for the Bob session if you go for the Bob event. So signing off, my friends, from the YouTube. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.